All I want to feel as an audience member is to feel conflicted.
100%.
I don't want to be fed, and I don't, that's not really the word that I think I'm saying.
Don't feed Lizzie, guys. Don't
I don't
feed
want
her.
to
Don't
be fed.
do it.
It's nice to meet you.
Nice to meet you too.
In this setting.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Super cash living room hang.
Welcome to my house. This is my succulent.
Wow.
Yep, it's all real. Alan didn't do it.
You're sure?
Positive.
How can you be positive?
Because I didn't.
So you went from playing Wanda in WandaVision and Doctor Strange and then into Candy.
Yes.
What was that transition like for you?
It didn't feel very comparable to me. I was like doing Marvel for 2 years straight.
Wow.
Like literally with a 2-day break and a quarantine.
A 2-day break?
Yeah, I wrapped WandaVision on like a Wednesday and flew to England on a Friday. I don't know, it was like, it was amazing. We were like,
okay?
No, I wasn't.
That's crazy.
But luckily Richmond, England was gorgeous and a beautiful place to live. And I was in quarantine for like 2 weeks or something. So like that felt like a break. I think I had like the summer off or something before going into Candy.
Do you stay up at night?
Missing her.
Missing Wanda?
No, I don't. I think it's been almost 10 years of playing her. And I've loved it. I think the reason why I am not like calling Kevin Feige like every day with ideas is because I'm really proud of what we were able to do. I think WandaVision was really surprising and a really surprising opportunity. And so if someone were to tell me that I'm fired from Marvel movies, I will feel proud of what we made. And yeah, so that's how I feel about it. And I really am just trying to figure out how to load up other films and characters, so it becomes less about the Marvel of it all. I think I was really hungry to put that character away, even though they could arguably be compared because they both do bad things and they're anti-heroes in a way. I think mostly it's just the comparison of playing like moms who do bad things or something, but like I don't make that comparison. I understand how I guess people looking in would.
People always want to find a through line.
Yeah, I don't have a through line.
Yeah.
I just have like oh, I haven't done that. And then the pendulum swings over here. When people ask me, do you have like character types you want to play, I'd never know how to answer that question.
Oh my gosh, I'm so happy to hear you say that.
Because I don't know. Like I just tell, like,
I don't have lists either. I feel like I start sweating every time somebody asks me like who I want to work with or what my dream.
Well, because first off, you're not going to remember anyone's name when people ask you that question.
Yeah, it's like some like anxiety response where I'm like, well, I don't even know what my name is. I like sort of never thought that I was going to be an actor.
What?
Yeah.
What did you actively try and do something else before?
Well, I grew up singing.
Okay. Oh, fine. I wish I could sing.
I'm sure you can.
Not really.
Actually, you do on the show, and you're great. So
I sing in the car a lot.
Yeah.
I'm usually flat, I was told when I was 12.
Well, everybody's flat when they're 12, Lizzie.
So
you have a beautiful voice. But yes, I did. I sang and...
Musical theater or like singer?
I didn't do theater growing up, really. I mean, I did my senior class play.
Wow.
And then, long story short, I graduated high school. My mom brought me to New York to do this open call for a musical.
What was the musical?
Well, the audition was for Spider-Man at the time, but then they called me back for this other musical called Next to Normal.
Yeah, of course.
And then I ended up moving to New York to do that off-Broadway. I was the understudy, and then it moved to Broadway.
I started off in understudying.
Did you?
Yes.
Hardest job of all time?
What? I never went on.
Oh.
So.
Less hard for you then.
Less hard for me. Terrifying feeling, but less hard for me. I never had to go on.
Yeah.
And I did a bad off-Broadway show and then a bad Broadway show.
It's hard to do good
theater.
Theater.
Yeah.
Theater's
Yeah.
like so
You
cutthroat.
start off as an understudy for Next to Normal.
Yeah.
Oh my God. We
And so
have that
then
little
theater.
connection between us.
But did you go to NYU after all of that? Or
No, I was doing it at the same time.
you were going to school and
Yeah, it was my
working.
second year of college and I started
Wow.
understudying. So I would just call in the Wednesday matinees because I was in class.
Oh my God, that's so
Awful.
badass.
It was not
Wow.
easy. But okay, so you did the Next to Normal and
Yeah.
then you were hooked. Or
Well, I got representation through performing in the show.
Yeah.
And then I kind of started going out for things, but I never really planned on like I want to be an actor. It took me a long time to sort of feel comfortable even saying I'm an actor.
were there classes that you took? Was there a coach that you had? Or are you just an instinctual bird?
I didn't really. I kind of learned
That's amazing.
from all of the other great people that I was so lucky to work with.
Yeah.
But I went through like this phase where I was really insecure about it because I felt like I didn't have the tools that the people who had gone to school or class or whatever had. And so it made me feel really like I didn't belong.
Well, school could also make you feel like everything you do is wrong.
Yeah. So
There's that too.
I think, yeah. And I think ultimately what I learned is like, it doesn't really matter. And, you know, both things are hard and great in their own way for
Yeah.
completely different reasons. It's
Yeah.
like, you can't really compare the experience, you know?
When do you feel like you fell into your, I need to stop saying or feeling embarrassed or ashamed or whatever? I'm assuming things and I don't mean to be, but you know,
Drag
like
me.
to say, yeah, this is what I do. When did that shift
I will call
happen?
you
when
that
happens.
happens.
Wow,
No,
it's not today.
I mean, I'm kidding. I've come a long way on that front. And I
Wow.
definitely feel like a lot more comfortable in this space.
You're so at ease when you're like watching you. You're so at ease.
Well,
It's so shocking to think that, like that there's that hesitancy to have that ownership or whatever.
I have been internalizing my anxiety for many years.
Good.
So it's good. It's very good for
Eats
me.
away at you slowly and surely.
No, but White Lotus is the first thing that I've ever done that was like so visible.
Yeah.
And that was a really crazy experience.
Yeah.
And I remember doing my first late night show, and it was Jimmy Kimmel, who was lovely. But I was so nervous that I like couldn't even remember like what I was saying.
They're horrible experiences, those
And
things.
then I watched it and I was like, I actually look not that scared.
Shocking.
And that really freaked me out.
Yeah.
Because I remember what it was feeling like inside. And so the fact that it had presented as like, this is not my first talk show, I was like, am I okay? I don't know. I think it's just like, maybe it's the Daphne in me. I just made a choice to like pretend to be a person
Yeah.
who was
okay with
gonna
it.
pass out. Yeah.
Yeah, because if you pretend to be the other person,
That doesn't
it'll
serve you
feel
either.
really bad.
Yeah.
Yeah. I think I'm still doing the I don't know if I want to be here person. But I'm like the making the choice to play the character. People always say that all the time. Like, well, if you don't like photo shoots, just like play a character. It's but like I don't feel that way.
Well, I definitely don't feel that way about photo shoots.
Yeah.
Don't you like being a woman? I'm fine with it. Usually. I do. I'd hate to be a man.
So I'm such a huge fan of White Lotus.
Me too.
Yeah, I can't imagine how much fun it would be to find out that you get to work with Mike White and then also be a part of the show. What was the process to get the part?
I made a self-tape.
Oh my God.
Yeah.
Oh no. That's awful.
Yeah, self-tapes are pretty brutal.
Wow.
But it was actually a pretty simple process. And I think that's specific to Mike. He's very easygoing.
Yeah.
So I had auditioned for the first season and I met him then. And then season 2 came about and I made a tape and then I Zoomed with him and Meredith Tucker, the casting director, and Dave Bernard, the producer, and Mike. It was just the 3 of them.
Wow.
And I read the scenes with Meredith, and Mike doesn't really give notes. He just kind of lets you read it.
Is that how he directs or no?
No, he's way more playful, I think, like on set, but I actually quite enjoyed the audition process in that it just felt so like comfortable.
Well, then you feel like when you go to the set on the day, you know that whatever you were doing then is aligned with something and that you don't feel like you're going to be micromanaged.
Right.
And you at least know a direction to start.
He's, you know, an actor too.
Yeah.
So he has this like fundamental understanding of like the innate awkwardness of that kind of thing.
And wanting you to feel ownership.
Well, I just think he knows that it's uncomfortable and nerve-wracking to
the audition process.
Yeah.
Gotcha.
Nerve-wracking to
the audition process.
Yeah.
Gotcha.
I found it really interesting though, because he's someone who I experience as like knowing exactly what they want. Like he's very specific,
That's
but
nice.
not micromanagey at all.
Yeah.
And like very open to you doing whatever feels right to you.
And did you guys have all of the episodes before you started?
Yeah. After I got cast, they sent all 7 scripts.
Did you guys have a rehearsal process? Because you kept the illusion between you and your husband, played by Theo James, so well that I think as an audience, when we learn of your unspoken rules in your relationship, there's like no hint of it when you first meet you guys. And I was curious if that was clear from the script.
Well, I think for me, we had a conversation when we got to Italy, Theo and I and Mike, and the key, I think, to that whole relationship is that the love and affection and joy that you see these two characters experiencing, Cameron and Daphne, is genuine.
Yeah, it felt that way.
And so once I knew that that was true, I kind of didn't have to think about it again. Like I was like, oh, if that's real, then the rest of it kind of falls into place and unfolds in this like spooky way.
When you and Harper are alone, and it's so devastating to watch you have that conversation with her, and you being so at peace with it made it even more painful, I feel like, for the audience to watch. But it was so beautifully played where you never felt sorry for yourself.
Daphne genuinely doesn't see herself as a victim.
Yeah.
And those were like my 2 truths, that like the love and connection was real and that she genuinely didn't feel like a victim.
Yeah.
It wasn't just something she was saying performatively or whatever, you know, she really felt those things. So that was also something that I feel like simplified the approach in a huge way, because it was just true for her.
Yeah. And that's what made it really powerful as an audience and make us feel conflicted, which is all I want to feel as an audience member, is to feel conflicted.
100%.
I don't want to be fed, and I don't, that's not really the word that I think I'm saying.
Don't feed Lizzie, guys. Don't
I don't
feed
want
her,
to
don't
be fed.
do it. No, but I get what you mean, though.
Yeah,
It's true.
I don't want someone to like tell me how I'm supposed to feel. I love feeling conflicted about stories and characters. And, and I think because of those 2 truths that you had, we could feel all the fun feelings it is to be on the ride of that show and the relationships within the show.
Well, Mike White, I think, is especially good at presenting a scenario to an audience and then letting them decide how they feel about it.
Yeah.
You know, so I think that that's one of the cool functions of the show in general. But honestly, to me, it makes me just think of your character on Love and Death, because
similarly, like,
you're playing this woman
hopefully,
who like brutally murders a person, but you watch the show and somehow you just bring such an ease and humanity to her. And it's so complex that like on paper you could read about the story and think, oh, this woman is, you know, XYZ.
Yes, there's
It's
a lot
black
of
and
things
white.
you can say about
But your
her.
performance is like so much more nuanced than that. And I think it does challenge the audience to then ask themselves, well, how do I really feel about this?
And it hit me in the side of my head. I knew then that she wanted to kill me.
Part of me doesn't want to ever let characters off the hook, especially if things really happened. But I have to sometimes remember that that's not up to me. That's up to the writer and the director and the producers. And I'm just there to serve the story as written. But I don't like making judgments on my characters. So I don't want, I want to understand them. And I do feel like in order to understand how someone who's like so beloved in a community and there's no prior either like heated arguments anyone had ever witnessed, like no anger anyone had ever seen. How does that end up leading to something that's so violent? And the only thing I could really hold on to is this obsession with presenting an exterior to a community. That was like one of my things guiding me through. And the other people's opinions and how they reflected on her was what she lived by. And that was the value system. So the moment that's almost taken away from her, that was like kind of when she knows what she's done but doesn't know how to either say it, deny it, when to say it. I mean, it was a weird choices were made in real life. And so it was weird to navigate.
Yeah, totally.
Yeah.
But the thing that really struck me, I think, in the beginning was, you know, you're introduced to your character. The first shot is you singing in church.
Yes.
And so you kind of make judgments based on that like initial moment. You're like, oh, I kind of get who this person might be. And then I was really surprised when your character was like so forthcoming with her best friends about like this affair that she wants to have and then ultimately engages in, and like how sort of brazenly she approached Jesse Plemons' character to sort of ask him if he wanted to do it. Like that kind of took me off guard, where I was like, oh, this is this like church-going woman with all these values who's also just like, I want this. And I have really good reasons for it. I've thought about it. And like, what do you think?
Yeah, she's a very modern woman for the time and the place.
Yeah.
Yes, she knows what she wants. She tries to figure out how to get it. You know, these jobs can be so long, and there's a moment where you're so tired.
Yeah.
And you're just like, how do I just show up to work and not be tired? Because your character's not tired. Your character has a lot of energy. My character is like never tired. And so it was this amazing thing that I couldn't allow myself to be tired, because she's a doer and she's a getter. And like if she has something that she wants to accomplish, she will figure it out. She will start a business. She will start an affair. And so that was something that was a saving grace, like on, you know, month 4 or whatever. And you're just like, how, this is never going to end. How's there 3 months left?
Yeah.
And you just do it because the character luckily is that type of person.
Yeah, totally. But I get what you mean. And I do think that as it applies to Love and Death too, the work that you do in that, it's like in its own way, it's relentless in terms of like her energy, the energy that the character requires of you. And then it's twofold, right? Because it starts with like all this cheer and pep. And then there's this grisly murder. And then it's like so many more emotional things that you're navigating. There's a scene that I really want to talk about. The scene between you and Lily Rabe where the murder takes place is so much more brutal and realistic, I think, than I was expecting for it to be. And I was just so curious about how you figured that out. Like, was there a ton of rehearsal? It's like a lot of choreography.
There is a lot of choreography, and it disturbingly was choreographed based on her lacerations that are discussed in the trial. And we went backwards from that to try and figure out where certain things happened for both of us. Also, Lily is an incredibly strong woman, and she's taller than me, and she's much stronger than me, and she was 6 months pregnant when we were filming it.
Oh my God.
And I think that was the hardest part for me, was that she really wanted me to make contact with her with this like fake rubber axe. I really didn't feel comfortable because of her being pregnant. So there was like a lot of other negotiations that were hard for me. I luckily got to do an entire wide with just her double. And I think that was helpful because the adrenaline that happens with being able to do that in one, it allowed me to understand how we can't actually make judgments about really 41 times. That can't be a mistake. But like, if you think someone is trying to hurt you, not saying that my character was the victim in this situation at all, but in the mindset of let's say there is a battle between two people, since two people leave with very different types of wounds, but they both leave with wounds, I would assume you want to do everything you can to win that battle when it's life or death. And being able to shoot it in one wide was like a really horrible feeling. And it also made me understand this kind of freak out that could happen in that circumstance. But yeah, Lily's an amazing actress to work with because she's so physical. She's spent so much of her life on stage, and you feel it in just how she like moves her weight through space. And it was really amazing to get to do that entire sequence with her, from entering the house to just talk about the kids. She's such a physical actress, and so I kind of adored just getting to watch her work, and sadly couldn't give her the violence that she wanted on my end and ask someone else to.
I totally get, that's a tricky situation.
Yeah, like one wrong weird thing, even if it's a rubber thing.
Yeah, it's a lot.
Yeah, and she
I
felt really
probably felt the
confident that
same
she
way.
was going to be blocking where she needs to be, but like, you don't know, and I don't want to be responsible.
Totally, of course.
Yeah.
Yeah. And I feel like there's this other component to what you're having to do now, which is talk about this.
So
and you're
frustrating.
doing it so well. But I imagine that if I was in your position, it would be really difficult to navigate that in a way where you're like, as an actor, it's my job to imagine a space in which I could see a person doing this and why.
And understand, yes.
You have to do that. But it's also really tricky because you're talking about somebody who got
off.
Yeah.
Oh, well,
right.
Sorry, spoiler, but yes. It's a true, it's awkward.
So I imagine that's like a little bit awkward for you to try to sort of like dance around. Like, obviously you're not presenting this character as somebody that should, you know, be sympathized or whatever. But at the same time, it's like, you have to.
Yeah.
Because how else could you do it?
I prefer looking for characters that do some stuff that I don't agree with. It's just a little easier to defend them when they're fictionalized.
Totally. Did you speak to Candy Montgomery? You did not speak to her.
No, she's never participated in an interview post the trial. And she participated in a book called Evidence of Love. And that was kind of like my research Bible, because there's letters that she wrote to her husband, and there's stories from her childhood. And usually I don't care about that stuff as a character. I don't know. I feel like because of having these facts of someone's entire life, it made me think, oh, maybe as an actor I should do a little bit more of that inventing. It was interesting to think about who she was as a 12 or 13-year-old girl with boys.
Yeah.
Because that was in the book, and I got to understand that. And I was like, oh, maybe that is interesting to think about. Do you do that? I have a girlfriend who's an actress who likes to actually go through huge moments in a character's life that has nothing to do with the story, just so she feels like she lived in the character. And I just don't do that. I'm like, it starts and it ends and whatever I need.
I'm sort of like you.
Yeah.
Yeah. I don't know that I've ever explored that. I guess I never was like, had the impulse to.
Me neither.
I definitely understand why it helps people though.
Yeah.
But yeah, for me, that's never been a part of it.
Me neither. And sometimes I think like, do I want to start embracing part of that?
That honestly kind of makes me feel better to hear you say that.
No,
because part of me is like, I don't do that. Should I be doing that?
Yeah, I don't know. I think it's because at a certain point, you don't want, I think, to just get comfortable. I always want to be a little uncomfortable or pushing a different kind of experience. I think of things as like an athlete, like how are my free throws looking or whatever.
Yeah.
And so I'm trying
How are they looking?
I don't know. There are things that I think I learned from playing characters that are further outside of myself, whether it's like a walk or whatever. I enjoy it more than things that are closer to myself. I feel more stuck in my body when it's a version of myself.
Yeah.
With Daphne, do you feel like there's someone outside of yourself that you're plopping into, or do you feel like it's a version of yourself with different given circumstances?
I think it's weirdly a little bit of both. I think I have a hard time completely removing myself, or I just haven't had the experience yet where I've like really felt like I've been able to do that. And I also think that everybody in the cast of White Lotus shares an innate thing in common. They have something in common with their character. And I think that—
I think you feel that.
Yeah, and
in a
that's
good
why
way.
it feels a specific way, I think, because that's true. So I think that's definitely part of it. But then I think the rest of Daphne comes from like a couple of different people that I kind of know, or like things that I've seen. I just kind of was like, oh, maybe I think it's this.
Behavior-wise?
Yeah, but not
Or
like
habits?
a specific person, just kind of, you know, like recollections of things or whatever. And obviously like the dialogue is so natural and stuff that it kind of does a lot of the work for you too. But did you, because you played a real person, so did you watch like videos of Candy or anything to get, like was any of the stuff that you did on the show specific to something that you had picked up from watching her?
No, because there's
anything?
the only video is her going in and out of court, not talking.
Right. So you didn't have anything?
I don't know what her voice sounds like. We have just letters and the trial itself. And that's basically it in this book, that most the people in our show, the real people, participated in this book. And so that was kind of what I was going off of. So it was, I got to kind of invent understanding that she was a bit of an army brat and knowing that she lived in Texas for about 10 years and that she tried to cater to her feminine side in order to get through the world. Do you know the IDEA Kansas University website?
No.
I think
What is that?
It's like an accent portal. You can look up any type of background, age, location, and so you can look up people who, you know, were Candy's age in 78 or 80 from Texas or whatever, and you can start just pulling.
Whoa, that's so cool.
Yeah, and I always love, that's like a, you know, like an NYU thing. I just remember a teacher telling me that, never forgetting it. And so I use that, and I always have a friend that I work with who's British, even though it's like mostly American regionalisms. And we were just trying to figure out what we wanted her to sound like based off of those kinds of videos and then cultural things that we felt were appropriate of the time for women.
Maybe something happened.
So how did you find the layers within Daphne? How did you navigate that on your own with Mike White, with the other characters? Were there different levels that you guys had played with, or was there a clear idea of how it was going to show itself emotionally?
As it applies to Daphne in general, she's very often responding to like someone else's choice. And I think that that's especially true with her husband and her marriage. I think she shares with Aubrey's character, Harper, because I think she really wants to be friends with her. I don't think she has a lot of friends, and I think she actually feels like this woman could be someone that she is friends with. And I think that's why at the end, when Ethan comes to Daphne on the beach and says, I think something happened with our spouses.
Yes.
And there's that moment where there's like a lot going on with her face. I think the sadness that you see is actually about Harper. I think she's like disappointed that this woman who she thought was maybe gonna be a buddy of hers sort of betrayed her. I don't think it's about the infidelity, because that's obviously been
But it's about the who and the
a
infidelity.
part of their marriage for a while. And then I think another thing that's really true about Daphne is that she is actually pretty emotionally resilient, but also just intelligent. Like I think she understands on a fundamental level that the only thing she can control is her response to the world around her. And she's making a series of like very deliberate, specific choices about how she moves through the world.
I don't think you have anything to worry about.
She is also somebody who has a lot of empathy. And so for me, the Ethan scene was always sort of about empathy. I think she saw
for him
how broken he was and how few tools he had to deal with what he thought happened.
Yeah.
And I think she wanted to do something to like empower him. And she did, because she takes him away. The audience doesn't see what happens.
No.
Mike and I
Yeah,
didn't talk about it.
Yeah, does that matter? Did you make a decision as to what you thought happened?
I did. I ultimately did. But it wasn't a necessary piece of knowledge for me to have to shoot the scene.
Right.
Like, I thought about it kind of after the fact.
I also think it's nice when directors and actors maybe aren't exactly aligned. It creates the potential for more possibilities for an audience to try and figure out how to fill in the blank without it being insinuated in any way.
Yeah, totally.
It's interesting that you've decided that it comes from this place of empathy and using the word or the phrasing like emotional intelligence for her, because it's like an amazing tool to think about, knowing that it's, I think, why the audience falls so in love with your character, and also not feel sorry for her, but respect her. There's no like pity. It was like, okay, like she's emotionally resilient. She knows what she wants, but we're heartbroken for her.
Mm-hmm.
And I think it's because of leading with that character choice of having empathy for everyone else around her, clearly suffering, even if you can compartmentalize your own.
Yeah, I think that's, there is a certain sadness that comes with that. But I think that...
Oh, yeah.
Yeah.
Oh, yeah.
But I don't know. I mean, you can probably relate to that on a personal level somehow. I feel like I can too,
Yeah.
you know? It's like, especially as actors, it's like you move through the world in a way where you're constantly like sort of seeing how other people also move through the world.
Mm-hmm.
It's hard to turn that off.
Mm-hmm.
So like I get sad all the time just like watching people be
Complacent.
and then I talked about it in therapy when I was like in my 20s. I was like, everything makes me cry all the time. And she was like, you're just imagining that everybody is like sad and it's worst case scenario. And
But
like,
the truth
maybe
is,
that's
I
not
think
it.
People are sad.
Yeah, I
lot.
do think people are sad.
I think that's true.
Yeah, but I also think it's like unhinged to cry every time you see someone eating alone in a restaurant. It's like,
Oh my God, if you ever see me eating alone in a restaurant, it's one of my favorite things to do.
But that's the thing. Like, I eat alone all the time and I love it. I go to the movies
Yeah.
alone and I love it.
Love
Like,
it. Yeah.
so why am I assuming that the other people who are doing it aren't happy about
It's
it?
because
It's
you're a
like,
bleeding heart.
so
And
I
you
had
have
to
a lot
rein
of
that in a little bit.
empathy. You were just overwhelmed with empathy, that's why.
Yeah.
It was really nice.
So fun.
Yeah, really great to talk to you
Yeah,
at my
you too.
house.
Thank you for having me.
I'm happy you came.
You didn't give me any snacks or anything to drink.
I didn't
but
offer you a single glass of water.
You did say, don't feed me. So
Yes.
maybe this is just like a no food house.
We don't eat here. We don't eat, we don't drink.